of this Vietnamese singer. She sang Bonjour Vietnam, which is a French song, and she lives in Belgium. And that French song has since been translated into English, and it's called Hello Vietnam. And the lyrics is really beautiful, and so I just wanted to have the introduction into that. Oh, wow. Well, maybe we can listen towards the end. I have it again in the end. What I wanted to start out is that I'm going to present something a little bit different than the people have done before me. They talked about the statistic and how the different Asian American groups live within Fairfax County. As for me, it is the smallest part of that Asian American group, and that's the Vietnamese community, and how I came to the United States in 1975 and lived in this area and have my job and now my business in Fairfax County. So it's quite an exciting journey for me. So let me take you through the journey. As you can see, 1962, that was the year I was born. And this is just a poem that describes a little bit part of my life when I was born and what happened in that era. This is my mom and dad, and this was, I think, in Atlantic City or somewhere like that when we first came to the United States. Life was a beach for us. I grew up in Vietnam. We came from a pretty well-off family. So we have houses at the beach, and we go there during the summer. You know, a very typical, normal family during the war of Vietnam. We have vacation home in Da Lat, which is the central part of Vietnam, where the region is a bit colder than normally you would think of Southeast Asia. 1975 is when the war was over. And on April 26th of 1975 is when we left Vietnam. And it was a turmoil time. I was 13 at that time, and we had to leave Vietnam secretly. My dad was really high up within the government, and we sold our house. We moved the whole family into a hotel. And we found out later that one of our chauffeurs is a communist undercover. And so if we had stayed in Vietnam after 1975, my father would have been prosecuted because he was really high up within the government. So what we knew about the chauffeur is because one of the ladies who was helping out with our family, they came looking for her and wanted her to point out where my father was. And then that was a really tough time. This is a poem from Win Chai, described a little bit of things happened in that area. And I'm sure you have seen this image many, many times. I was very fortunate. I was not one of them who climbed out that helicopter because we have some connection. And so we left on the 26th of April, right before the fall of Saigon. So that's about 4 days before the fall of Saigon. This is Camp Pendleton. This is where we arrived when we first came to the United States. You know, for me as a little kid, I learned French as a second language. So we read books and we see snow and we see Christmas, and you know, none of that really exists in Vietnam. So my first impression of America is, wow, I'm going to see buildings, I'm going to see beautiful places. Well, when I arrived at Camp Pendleton, it's not all of that. We all live in a tent. And so we live in a tent for about 3 months, and we get in line to go get food every morning, and we wear this heavy military jacket because, you know, there was not enough coats and clothing available for us at that time. And now Camp Pendleton is in California. It's in the mountains. It's very cold, and so that was a really tough time. As a young kid, it's not too bad. You know, I played with other kids, but for my parents and for my grandmother, it was a really tough time for them because it was cold. They don't have rice, so every time during the week when the military would cook rice for us, the lines will be really long. And on the day that they serve, like, I don't know, some other kinds of American food that they're not used to, there was no line. So nobody would go get food except for us, like hot dogs and hamburgers. You know, the grandmothers couldn't eat those. But that's some of the images in Camp Pendleton. So we moved, and we have a sponsorship. In order for us to live in the U.S., we have to have a sponsorship. And our family was huge. We have 14 people total. 2 grandmas, the parents, 5 kids, uncles and aunts. And so no single family could sponsor our family. So a Baptist church decided... The Baptist church decided to sponsor our whole family. And we reside in Herndon, Virginia, as one of their first settlements. Now, it's really interesting during that time because it was the Baptist church who sponsored us. My grandmother from my dad's side is Buddhist. My grandmother from my mom's side is Catholic. And when the bus came on Sunday to take us to the Baptist church, they all looked at us like, I'm not going. And so, the kids are going to the church, but the grandma, refuses to give in. So that was really interesting. And that's where, I learned a little bit about the faith of the Baptist church. 1980. Now, I'm a little bit older. I graduated from Falls Church High School, which is around the corner, and I started going to University of Maryland. And I'm sorry. Let me go back up a little bit. This was our first home in the United States. Now, when we fled Vietnam, we actually didn't really bring anything with us except for one piece of clothes, but we have a lot of gold. Our gold was strapped around our body because my dad sold the home, and the people who immigrated from the central part of Vietnam did not have cash to pay him for the house. So instead, they paid him with gold. And that's how we lived on that and survived with the gold that we brought to the United States. But I remember as a little girl going through these monitors, they were beeping, and the American soldiers at this time already know that the Vietnamese are bringing gold out. So they know, don't touch. Don't even check. It's what they are having on their body. So that was a funny story. So that's one of our first houses in Summerfield, Virginia, in Falls Church. My dad was working for an insurance company, Prudential, and we was actually written up in the U.S. World Report back in the 1970s or 1980s. And he was made first of the year or something like that. He sold a lot of insurance. So we got a trip to Disney World in Florida, and that's where we are. And this was the insurance company on Wilson Boulevard in Clarendon, Virginia. 1984. I graduated from University of Maryland. I was a chemical engineer there, although I didn't really want to study chemical engineering. But as Asian American, as refugees, we always have to have the needs first before what we want to do. And so it guarantees me a job, to work and to make good money to take care of my life and my family. So that's when I graduated. And I got married in 1988. So life just goes along just like the typical, Vietnamese American and Asian in this country. And after I got married, I have my children. 13 years with IBM, corporate America. I was in the sales force. I sales to the federal government. I was not happy there. I know that I liked in sales, but I was not happy in the corporate America. I have always loved art. And so in 2001, I made the decision to go back to Vietnam for the first time after being away for about 30 years. And that was really interesting for me, interesting experience, because I left at such an early age. Although I still speak the language, it was a different time for me. If I come back as an Asian American, people from Vietnam will look at me and they know I am different.